Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the Martini, Candid Conversations with a Twist. My name is Gus, and I'm Erie Rental's Director of Business Development for North America, and I've been with the Erie family now for over 17 years and honored to be your host today. As a friendly reminder, please send us your questions via the Q&A tab here on Zoom, and we'll get to as many of those as possible during the course of our show today. We are very fortunate to have with us the incredibly awesome Nik Summerer, all the way live from Berlin. Nik is a German-based cinematographer whose work has been screened at multiple film festivals across the world, including Slamdance and Camerimage here in the US, and Camerimage in Poland. He has been collaborating with director Baron Boorden on several projects over the last decade. And his features include Under the Sun, Silence, Who Am I?, Siege of Jodhatville, and the Netflix series Dark, which I'm really looking forward to talking about because it's such a great looking show. Welcome, Nik. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you very much, Gus. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful. So I always like to start by hearing kind of like an origin story. How did you get wrapped up into the crazy world of filmmaking, and what inspired you?
Well, how did I get up there? It started as all in a way when I was about 15, 16, and I was watching Stanley Kubrick's films. Yeah, there was just the moment when I just realized, well, this is something what I want to do. Actually, Shining was the real film where I had the first time the understanding that there is a camera, there's something happening. It was the scenes in the hotel, in the hallways with the tricycle, and the cameras following up this. I had at this time the feeling when I saw it, there's something there. I don't know really what it is, but this is something that I want to do. I want to be responsible for doing these kind of things. And then it took me quite a while, about another 10 years, until I finally, get my foot into the door. And this was more due to the fact that I was, I guess, in a way, wasn't brave enough to do it, to do this to the next step. I didn't think that the film business is anything that I can attend. I thought it's an enclosed circle where you just only get permission to enter if you have somebody who's working there, or I don't know, for whatever reason, you've been just like chosen to do so. And long story short, at one point I just, I was studying economics at the time, always ask myself, what am I doing here? And at one point I just quit, and my parents were very supportive at the time. They said, well, you can do whatever you want to, but you have to do something. So, well, I called Ari in a way, because they only step into this secret circle that I knew of. Ari was in Munich, I was in Munich, so it was a good first step, I thought. And also, it took me quite a while until I actually got into this. But I started out as an intern on a film set right immediately, and as a lighting intern for a small, tiny, a little bit shallow TV series. But that's how I learned the first things, And from there on, I've been continuously asking if I could go into the rental department, because I knew I wanted to go in the cinematography corner. And also after a while and persistency, I got a spot there, and that opened a lot of doors for me. And later on, I went into film school. I met a couple of good people, and one of them is probably the reason why I'm sitting here. It was Baron Boorden, the director of Dark and many other projects that we've been collaborating on and successfully collaborating on, fortunately. And so that was the the shorter version. I can extend this, but you
No,
will be
that's
sitting
great.
there tomorrow.
That's great. No, it's lovely to highlight how you can meet people in film school and really bond and find that relationship and then end up working together throughout your careers. So that's really, really cool. Did you
Yeah,
guys
I
have
think
any?
this is one of the most important and one of the best things about actually film school. Of course, you learn a lot about films and the history, what is all important, and a lot of the technique, and you can make a lot of mistakes that you learn from and grow. But the relationship to your fellow students and helping out and starting out and then form real relationship that help you later in the business. This is just everything, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have mentors that were guiding you along the way?
Not really in the film business, the on-set business. I don't think so. But I, in a way, had a mentor from Ari. It was Manfred Jahn, the technical head from Ari Rental Munich. He supported me quite a bit, and he gave me a lot of opportunities. So I've been traveling to certain sets to helping out in a way, you know, I was, for a little bit, I was a camera technician also in RA in Munich. And actually, I've been on the set of Stanley Kubrick at one point, Eyes Wide Shut. And, you know, as the story goes on, I actually met him in the hallway. I saw him through a door, and I told the camera assistant with whom I was checking back the camera equipment, and I said, "Oh, I saw Stanley Kubrick. I saw Stanley Kubrick." I told him the story beforehand, you know, that Stanley Kubrick is the reason there, why I'm there. And he said, "Well, I can introduce you," and I just was so humiliated, and it was frightening. But then I shook his hand, yeah. And of course, I didn't tell him that he is my hero. I just told we talked about an 80 millimeter size high-speed lens and why it does have so little focus marks.
That's a great story. That's awesome. So let's talk about working in film school. And you shared some images with us from Under the Sun, which was essentially a thesis project, right?
Yes, this was our thesis project. We haven't been in the same grade in film school. He was also, he's younger. He was like, I think 2 years ahead of me in film school. And we finished school with this project in 2005. Yeah. It's called
Wow.
Under the Sun. It was a 60-minute film based on a short story of a famous German author. It's shot on 35. We wanted to make a nice little story. It's about this is this little boy here, Victor, who is from his parents. They put him into his auntie's to his aunties over the summer for a week or two, and he's bored. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And there is this cousin. She's a little bit older. She's or wants to be very independent. Obviously, she's a teenager, and so very interesting for this little boy who's kind of like coming into puberty. But she's only, you know, she doesn't really want to have him around because she doesn't want to babysit him. And he has no really place where to go or where to be. He's always there, you know, here he's having his auntie's bike, what is too big for him. And he's going to the swimming pool and with all these older kids where he thinks is all great, but they think he's just a burden. They don't want to be with him. Yeah. This was a really great project. And it got us quite a bit of attention, I guess, also in festivals. So that was the first time that this was that was actually at Camera Image with a project. What was very exciting. I have attended as a student beforehand, not with a film, just to be there as a visitor, and enjoyed the festival very much. So it was really, really great to have a film there. Unfortunately, it's just a few pictures that I can show of the project. but here we shot this. Yeah, we shot this on 35 millimeter. This was all with a chocolate filter in it, to get a certain look of it. The kind of like pastelic way we wanted to have.
It's got a beautiful warm glow. I was going to ask you what filters you use there. Yeah. Very nice.
The nice thing with this filter is that it's just the sky, or everything that is blue stays blue, is even a little bit enhanced, and red is enhanced, and all the other colors are in the same way that they used to be. It's just enhancing these two colors nicely, but it turns everything in a little bit of a brownish tone. So this Victor is doing some bad things, and
it looks like it.
Yeah, and obviously he's very frightened and growing, I guess, with what's happening.
What were some of the challenges or learning experiences you pulled from this particular project?
Well, one of the reasons, one of the things that I certainly learned is, so Bo is a very he's having an artistic background, and I think we talk about this later also when there are other projects we're bringing up. So he has a strong opinion about certain things. He also, it's just to get in line with him what his idea of the story was, also to bringing my ideas to the table, to learn to communicate it, and just to be supportive for a director in a certain way, And also, I guess, because it was the first bigger project, it was a thesis project, but there was a little bit of money from the film funding in it, and there was a bigger crew, all non-paid, and everybody was helping out, and everybody was starting out, so there was all great and nice support. But the way we did it was actually on a professional basis. We all have been on other film shoots before, so we knew how this would be, and to work in this level, be someone leading the cinematography department, working with a director, being all these, just like being the first time in this seat, really, that was, I guess, the biggest learning curve that I had there. And beside all the things with delivering really something that is that has meets all the demands or all the expectations that I have on myself, that Bo had on me, and that I guess everybody else had. So. Yeah. We wanted to step down our foot with this project. Obviously, you always think that with this last film of film school, you just have maybe a business card out in the business, and if you deliver not a good project, then nobody will realize that you exist.
Wow. So that's great. That's again where you formed your working relationship, and that's where it solidified, I would say. And that's very cool. There's a question that just came in directly about these images, and they were asking if you recall the density of the chocolate filters that you used, and also what stock you used, 35 millimeter film stock.
Yeah, it was a chocolate one. The film stock we used was 5218 for the night stuff, and I can't remember what it was during the day, but it was all tungsten stock. And I'm not sure if it was 45 or was it even 48? No, I think maybe it was 48. Yeah. I can't remember, I have to say. I'm very sure that it was 5218 for the night stuff. That's for sure. And the other one was probably 45. I think 77 was, this was a daylight stock. So I don't know.
Yeah, and it's a shame that we just don't. Well, we don't even have a lot of these stocks available to us anymore, sadly. So that's.
But if it's very important to this person, I can find it out. I have notes somewhere where I wrote it down, and so I can answer this question.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about the next project here we had on our list. I guess the English translation is Silence, but it's obviously a different name in German.
Yeah, Das letzte Schweigen was the German title. So this was then our first commercial break into the business. Again, it's based on a book. It's a thriller, a slow-paced thriller, I would say. It's a murder happened some years ago in the 80s, and the same murder happened again some years later. So there you see already an analogy with dark, with something happened before and something happens after. So we have here in the background this young boy who is kind of like, or a young man actually, who's Timo, who is together with this, the other guy, who is the housekeeper of the block that they both are living in at the time. And they have a certain same interest. So it's a little bit of a tricky topic, the whole thing. Basically, they are a little bit, interested, or I would say they're pedophilic interests, and one is sending a message to the other like many years later, like 20 years later. So this is the beginning of the film. You see the two, they're sitting there, they just watched a film. Now they're out there to, to kind of like put it into action in a way, their crime. So, and then just to tell the story. So later on, like a few decades later, or a couple of decades later, the same murder happened again. And the police is just, there was one police officer who is kind of like his unsolved case, who definitely want to solve it. The younger one who has a depression because his wife died on cancer, who's involved in the whole thing, and they're all following these two guys, or well, actually a phantom, because they don't know who it is. But Timo, this guy, gets the message, and he's have now a family on his own. He kind of like suppressed always his feelings in a way, and now he's coming back to what happened at the time then, and he's confronting the other one, and well, I guess it turns out bad in a way, But it certainly is an interesting story. It's not easy to stomach, I guess, in a way, also for parents, not because of the pedophilic part of it. It's just more about the murder of the thing. The background of the two guys is actually not the most disturbing. It's the other stuff. If what you do as a parent, if you maybe get with a teenager a kid, and you just one day you have this argument, and one is leaving and is not returning back. So this certainly is, and I think now about the whole topic a little bit different, than I'm a father myself, about how how you deal with all these situations. So this is a disturbing film, I would say. It's very slowly told. What Bo and I really like both are these just like really slow dolly pushing in. We had this a lot in there, being inspired by an Australian film called Lantana. They had this like these very, very slow camera moves. And I think Alan Kuras was the cinematographer at the time of this film. Really, really beautiful. And that's what we had here, just this gripping, constantly moving in. Yeah. So this is the one police officer who wants to solve the case, and then there's an older one. I'm not sure if I have a picture of this. This was also shot on film, this time without any filtration from outside.
What did you guys discuss about, I mean, in a way, upping the ante, going from, moving into this being your first finance project, to go out there commercially? Did you find there were challenges with that? Did you find there was limitations set upon you, or were you able to be free and like you said, use your creativity, because both of you are, I mean, you said he comes from a very artistic background. Was there limitations set here that you had to work within?
I'm not sure. So the producers of the film have been also fellow students or people that we knew from all the films that we have worked together beforehand. Bo was there. Jantje, his partner, now also his writing partner, she was also helping producing this film. There were a lot of friends around, or people that we close to. So it felt really familiar of the work that we had done beforehand. You know, it didn't feel really different. I think our expectations on ourselves have been so high that everything that came from outside didn't really matter too much, because we had to deal with our own expectations enough. And once we came even close to them, you know, to these expectations, I think we kind of like sure enough that we would succeed somehow. And I was in a lucky position. So of course, you know, this is in Germany. It's also funded by TV stations, for example. These kind of films. Also, it's a feature film for the cinema. They have their say, and obviously they could easily say, "Well, I'm not experienced enough as a cinematographer for Bo's first step into the business, so he has to choose somebody else." You know, something like this happened later in our both in our careers. So, but everything was just held away from me. I never even heard about it. Only later they have been discussions about it, but the producer and Bo both said, no, we want to work with Nik. And so I only heard it later. So, I mean, I didn't even have this pressure that I had to deal with. So that was really, really great. Now we just, again, the first step now in the business, we wanted to do well in it. And like very often, a lot of people in Germany were actually supporting us and hoping that we would succeed with this film, because genre cinema is unfortunately not very big in Germany. There are so many filmmakers, they want to do genre films, but the audience doesn't ask for it in the same way, right? A certain type of comedies is very big here, and it might change a little bit. And there are other filmmakers out there too who now tell these stories, and I think it's really, really great. But it was harder at the time, and so a lot of people were just hoped that we would succeed. And so, in order to have genre cinema more on our plates, and be able to work in this.
There's a question about that, about working in Germany. First, was all of your education in Germany?
Yeah. I used to work for Ari in New York for a little bit, but I've never really have been on set there and working out there, neither as a technician nor as a cinematographer. So all my experience to this point was all only in Germany.
Yeah. And asking about translating that education, that experience over to working internationally. And you and I had a fun conversation earlier this week about how, you know, when you go and you work, maybe like say a commercial in Turkey, and the needs of that require then coming back to Germany and having kind of this different.
So it is just different, you know, to work in different countries with different perceptions and different ideas about how certain things should look like, you know. And I mentioned the experience that I had, that I did a lot of commercials at the time, still all shooting on film. And this was after The Silence, and between The Silence and also then Who Am I, the next film that we did. And a lot of commercials in Turkey. And at the time, there were these Scandinavians commercials very high, very on top. You know, everybody wanted to have these Denmark commercials that almost looked like ungraded, you know, like an ungraded film. And this look was the top look. So going to Turkey, they showed me, oh, this is how we want to have it, you know, this is how it should look. And you come to the set and there's just all kind of colors, every color there that you can imagine. And I said, okay, well, if we want to have this look, let's just this and this and this and this all has to go. And then no, but we can't. It should be happy or red. Red is very important for Turkish people. So red had to be in, and all these things. So there was the idea of a certain look, maybe, But when it comes to the shooting, there was the demand of we want to have this certain style, and then you can't really translate it and put it on your reel here so very well, because the style is just so different, and there wouldn't be any demand for this style here, you know.
Right.
Everybody wanted to have a colorless look of it. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's go to the next one. Let's talk about who am I?
Yeah.
And show some of
So,
those images.
Who Am I, again, was a genre film, and this was Bo and my breakthrough, I think, like real breakthrough. He had an agent he got an American agent after The Silence. Also, we got a nice reviews about it, that it doesn't look German, what's somehow very important for everyone. So yeah, this is some behind the scene stuff. There was a scene where, well, you see this supposed to be a mirror, and Benjamin, the main character of the shows, is having a pill and having some kind of like druggy moment. Bo is the director here with this helmet camera on it, and if you go through the picture, then you see this is me in a different situation. We shot this on anamorphics with Vantage Hawk anamorphics, like old lenses, C series lenses. These are immense big lenses and very, very beautiful. They have a lot of flaws in it and flares and big out of focus areas on the bottom, on the top. So it's a little bit trickier to work with them, and maybe because this is a hacker movie, you wouldn't necessarily think of these lenses as the thing for something that is so, electronically and, contains zeros and ones of the main parts. But they were just like beautiful lenses. I really enjoyed working with them. Also, my first experience with anamorphic lenses, different type of working. You need a lot of lights and to have a proper stop, but the field of view is just beautiful, and also the bouquet and everything was nice. Yeah.
And I loved hearing you talk about the concept for this film, because like you said, it's a hacker film. It's supposed to be taking place in the internet and people interacting, and so you guys approached it in a very, very different way than just somebody sitting in a computer hitting a keyboard.
Yeah, when we come to here you see it. When we come to the screenshots, then everybody would understand it, or will understand it a little bit better. So this is a subway. So it is a hacker movie that has to do with Benjamin, a nobody, kind of like this pale computer kid. He meets a group of other people, and they're doing some fun hacks, but not being very taken seriously from the other hacker groups. And then, the hacks get a little bit more serious, and before you know it, they're on the most wanted list because a couple of things go a little bit wrong, and then people dying, and so it's all getting, turning south then. So there's a lot of parts within the film that are happening in the internet, in the dark web. But how do you show this, right? Because at the end, it's not very visually interesting to have a person in front of a computer. So what was the idea from Bo and Janti, who wrote this project together, that all the internet stuff is actually happening in a subway. And it should be a moving subway. So we had to find a solution of how to make this with lighting. You couldn't look out of the subway. It was obviously kind of like a little bit more of a New York type of style subway that was created in the studio. And we worked with a lot of LED lights. We shot this 2013. So wow. LED light wasn't that big at the time. And all these lights were actually show lights. And in the beginning, there were so many questions about how can we make this subway look moving. So it had to be moving light. What should it be? Like park hands, for example, that are on a dimmer board and just going through, or what else could it be? And then we had come up with this show light solution, and that worked really, really well, and was really nice to do it this way. Great experience. Can you go back one picture? well, actually, yeah, we see it later. So these are all the guys in the subway. You see they're all wearing masks because in the dark net, everybody can be whoever they want to be. So this was the place. And then, yeah, if we go later then to the screenshots of the movie, you recognize even more what I'm talking about here.
It's wonderful to see you guys work. This is just a very different looking film from what you had done previously, you know, and it's very cool. And like you said, moving from like a Super 35 spherical into anamorphic also is a big jump, you know. And then this was digital as opposed to being shot.
Yeah, this was my first digital experience with the Alexa. It was different, but you know, it was very easy to cope. I worked differently. I didn't do anything with a light meter anymore, or only in the very beginning, and then I relied heavily on a calibrated monitor. So this is Benjamin with his mask. So he's later on forms this group called Clay, Clowns Laughing at You. So they all have these clowns masks. What was a big thing with the mask here at the moment, actually, because Bo had a certain idea about a clown, how it should look like, and then we had a designer in a way who created a clown's mask from here, but he didn't like it that much, and I think then some real comic artist designed actually this mask, and it worked really, really well. It was a really great mask. I'm very happy that I actually got one at the end of the film. I have it here. Yeah, I'm really happy about it.
I don't know why, but Eyes Wide Shut came up as soon as we were looking at these images, you know. And I was like,
well, there you go, mate. In a way. Yeah. So this is the police officer. She's going also on the dark web and looking for these guys. That's actually a part of a scene that didn't make it in the movie, but I love these pictures so much that I thought, well, what the heck? I just put them in.
Oh, they're great images.
I'm not sure if you can see it overseas anyway. There was also the talks about giving them a remake of this film. It never happened, and I don't know if it ever will. Yeah, but I think it was for a while on Netflix in the US. I'm not 100% sure. But what this film certainly did was, so Netflix heads, Ted Serrano, he saw the film, he liked the film very much. And you know, it could be also a reason why I later on did another show for Netflix also so easily, with nobody questioning me. And with all the things with dark, you know, maybe it was the first interest was already sparked there. Did we go through all the Who Am I pictures? I'm not sure.
Let's see, but we've got a lot of questions coming in regarding dark too. So I think maybe we should just, get right to it, because I'm sure everybody's excited to talk about that, and it's amazing. So now, you've done all 3 seasons of Dark, and you've been the only cinematographer on the show?
Yeah.
Wow. It's unheard of here in the States, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I know. There was also the question about how we should do it. It was at the end, when it comes to Dark, it was a financial decision then of how to do it. So Bo decided at one point that he'd like to do all episodes. So there was also then, you know, the other question is like, how we going to shoot the whole thing anyway? Episodic, or should we see it as one massive feature film with 100+ shooting days? And just make the first season had 10 episodes, make it just like, you know, shoot it like a feature film. So go through the locations, shoot everything at the locations, and then move on. And that's what we did. And I think it was a great experience to do it this way. It's also very different, because at the time my longest project was 55 shooting days. I think it was the Siege of Chatterville, a project I did previously. So now suddenly I'm facing 110. I think the first season was. So that's a lot, you know. And then a big second unit that was there, and also, you know, a lot of expectations that we again put on ourselves, and we wanted to really, really deliver a great project and create something that is standing out at the time, you know.
Yeah. You were probably
that at
the
least
first...
be on eye level with all the other shows that have been on Netflix at the time that we all knew, you know, House of Cards, Bloodline, a little bit while we were shooting, Stranger Things came out. So all these great shows, and we definitely didn't want to be, oh yeah, then there's a German show. No, we wanted to be named with these titles. We want to be one of them. So we really, really want to do very, very well, you know, to be recognized. Yeah.
And I remember hearing it here from the States. We were starting up a project called Altered Carbon for Netflix, and it was going to go on Alexa 65. And I think it was just about the same time you guys were starting as well. And it was fun to see that format, that camera, be adopted on scripted television, because I mean, shooting large 65 millimeter format for that was like a first. It was like, wow, really? So as we get into this, I'd love to hear you talk about why you chose to go with that format, and also obviously all of the decision making behind that with the lenses and trying to make that all work, because it was I'm sure that was an interesting logistical challenge.
It was definitely a logistical challenge. So at the time when we started, this was 2016, there was from Netflix, everything that had to be shot for Netflix had to be 4K native, you know, shot at 4K native. And there was no talks about it. I had this experience before on this film that I mentioned, The Siege of Chatterville. I wanted to shoot on an Alexa. I was not allowed. And at the time, Sense 8 was, John Toll did Sense 8. I had the opportunity to talk to him, and he said he chose a different camera because he also did a lot of tests, because he also wasn't allowed to shoot on Alexa at the time. And I thought, well, if John Toll is not allowed, maybe I should not even inquiry any further, because who am I compared to him? So yeah, so I shot this with a different camera. Now coming to dark, Bo had restrictions towards certain cameras, how they looked, and he wanted to have something different. I just liked the Alexa look and was happy to go this way. We talked about the project in February 2016. Bo told me that he wants me on the show and that this is happening, and we knew that we want shoot before October the same year. So I talked to my friends that are in Munich, to Manfred again, who I mentioned before, was kind of a mentor for me. If there is anything in the making, or is there any possibility that we can, I don't know, tune the normal Alexa to bring up, more speed, more power, more pixel than anything. And he was kind of like soon encouraging, we make the Alexa 65. Somehow there will be a solution to make it possible. So this continues a while, and then we decided to shoot not on 6K what Altered Carbon did. I think we only shot on 4K on the Alexa 65 sensor. So we met the requirements of Netflix, and being able to just have a little bit of a reduced data rate. And storage capacity was different needs for it, but we could shoot on this camera. Also, I reduced the package that I would usually take for a project of this type. Also, the lenses that I chose, I did a lot of lens tests, and then I didn't pick one of the Alexa 65 lenses, the large format lenses. I picked a set of ultra primes for it. But not only because I had to, in a way, I really enjoyed the combination of the Alexa 65 with the ultra primes. I thought they're just like, they're a really, really good match. They don't really fit the format. So there's a slight, they're calculated for a smaller format. So there's a slight out of focus shift areas, there's, all kind of flaws on the sides. that we actually thought all beautiful and wanted to have in for our little story. Yeah,
That's very cool.
so that's how it was, and certainly it was special. Yeah. Also for Germany, and also because our budgets are a little bit different than the budgets for Netflix films usually in the States.
So I'd like to kind of jump into season one, because you shared with us some really great inspirational photography that you guys used. And I'd like us to look at that, talk about that, and then we'll look at some of the images from season one and see how you translated that over.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you've got some inspirations here from this photographer, Gregory Cruden. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Gregory Cruden.
Yep.
Could you go through the pictures a little bit, because this one I'd say something later to it. First I think I have to explain for anyone who doesn't know him. So he's doing this like really great tableau photography where a person is kind of lost in the surrounding, and everything is a little bit strange or disturbing situations. You know, like here, this boy, what is he doing there? Maybe this is one of the more harmless situations, but there are others that are just like a little bit, disturbing. You always ask yourself, what is this person doing there? How did it get there? How what was the moment before this moment? What's happening next? Is he seeing something? There's this contemplation of looking around, looking up. There's lights coming from the bridge onto the boy in this dawn situation. There's a lot of fog in there. Yeah, that's a very strange situation. Very often in suburbs, where Gregory Cruden puts his scenes, and then here also what is this guy doing there with the suitcases in the forest, digging them out of the ground? So yeah, his photos very often happens in the suburbs. And there's all these things hidden in the persons these lost persons in the pictures. Maybe there's something like an anxiety there, or something, mysterious happened. And all this is also true for Dark. So coming to back to the story, when Bo talked to me, I was following Gregory Cruden for a long time, because his photography is done in a way like it is with a film shoot. So he's using the same lights that I would use, or any cinematographer would use. So that's why in the beginning of my film school career, I looked at these pictures and been just so I could study them, and I could understand and what he's doing with his lights in a way. So that was very nice. Coming now back to the story, to Dark. When Bo introduced the project to me, they had a folder put together with all the with a lot of visuals in it and the storylines, and there were a lot of Gregory Cruden pictures in it. So all the things that are true for the Gregory Cruden pictures are all happening in the story of Dark again, right? Suburb, the anxiety in these families, the desire, all the unspoken stuff that is under the surface that you can't see, but is always there, this darkness in a way, So I thought it's very exciting. Now was when we have Gregory Cruden as this great inspiration, how do we make it possible to have his style somewhere in the movie? And then we decided, well, we don't really want to have the style, but we want to have the atmosphere that he created in his photography also with us. And so he was always on our minds throughout the different season. These plateau type of photography, this higher angle, very often how you look into the world, and this happening again, this contemplating person where you just think, what happened the moment before this picture was taken, or what's happening next here, for example, is kind of like the mood in a way, this person on the car. And Yeah, so I think this is happening throughout the seasons again, first and second, or this one here, all heavily inspired by this fantastic artist.
Curious to talk a little bit about, you know, your workflow when you get on set too. Are you very camera focused, or have you found yourself really focused on lighting? Just curious how that dynamic works for you on set.
Well, I think both is just very important. I think what is really important for me, well, the camera for me is just a tool to express my feelings or everything that was in the discussion with the director, what he wants, what his ideas are, how to support this in an interesting visual way. You know, as I said before, Bo has an artistic background, and he has very distinct ideas about certain things. It's just we start on a kind of different level already, our talks. He's pulling a lot of material. I'm coming up with a lot of material, and then we just execute it on while we go. So we know in a way what kind of mood we want to have for certain scenes. What I realized more and more, what is very, very important for me is actually the framing of how people in which constellation they are to one another, or within a room, you know, where they're standing, how they are, their relationship to the surrounding is, might it be a person or a room or the environment or so. Right. And how you're going into an over shoulder or you don't, and these things. It's a little bit trickier because you work with two cameras. You just have, there's a lot of coverage also. That's just the way Bo likes to work. But I'm very, very, behind it, so that we create strong pictures, like frames and frames, and nothing fussiness around it. And always this, for dark, it was very important to have really put people dead center in the frame, to have this certain, what is it, like a vacuum, sort of vortex thing in a way, It's also the story. You have the cave, who is this vortex. You have the black matter, who is this, all the faces, obviously, in a way. So center was a big thing for me and us in the story.
Do you guys storyboard all of this out previously?
We did in the beginning of our work together. So we've been sitting there for hours and days and weeks for Under the Sun, and also for The Silence. We did a lot of storyboarding. We started with Who Am I as well. But then during Who Am I, in the second part of Who Am I, Bo kind of like get rid of this way of working. He wanted to rehearse with the actors and really get the scenes in a way. And then we decided of how we're gonna cover it. It certainly wasn't adapting for me to do, because I'm really believing in preparation. I love preparation. I love to get into the director's head or understand this person, want to understand what this director wants or doesn't want. Maybe the doesn't want is very often more important than actually what the director wants. And with Bo, obviously, because we have such a long past here, this is a very Crucian-esque picture, I would say. That's a well, probably one of our biggest quotes to his style. I remember when we've been on the recce for this one, I suggested, while she was digging up something out of the time machine, actually out of the garden, that we should bring out these living room lights to make it surreal and to make it Crucian-esque, and also it would be just a nice picture. This lady who has never in her life had a shovel in her hand, being in this 80s clothes and digging in the garden with and the dog is there. So yeah, really love this picture. It was actually shot by the second unit, so I have to give them the credit, but they really executed it exactly how I wanted it. And I think the lighting is perfect at every, so big thank you to them for creating this picture. Yeah.
That's very cool. As the seasons developed and as you guys, got further into this, we talked about how there's more and more dimensions and more unique looks to
Yeah.
each scene. And so you guys ended up kind of expanding the lens package in order to achieve that?
Yeah. So for the first season, I started with only one LUT because this is usually the way I want to work. So I have one LUT, and I want to do, if I want to alter anything in the look, I want to do it in the lighting, hard, soft colors or whatever. And then once we went through the whole story, and I just wanted to, because of the environment, because of the different periods, they do it themselves. I was thinking, so the 80s look different than the 50s and the future as well. So this is all, we are all covered. Not knowing what's happening in season 2 or season 3, I just thought, well, maybe it continues like this in these 4 time zones, and this is all right. Now, after the film was edited, we realized that we also have to look after, and Netflix brought this attention to us, we have to look after audience that are on other parts of the world. And when the 80s compared to the 2019 might be clear to us because of the different cars, because of the different fashion or whatever, but someone in Asia or South America or I don't know, some other countries, they might not see this clearly. So we had to do it a little bit of a color difference. So we did change the grading a little bit. So 80s look different than 2019s and so on. For the second season, even more times came. So we had also the 20s where my grader, Steffen Powell, created a beautiful look for it, because we always wanted to shoot ultimately on anamorphic lenses, but because of the Netflix requirements, we couldn't. So he kind of like manipulated the pictures in post. So this is everything that is in the 20s. So if people want to go back and look at it, he had this softness on the outsides of it, and we saw before a picture with Jonas with the 2 farmers, these kind of things. So the outside is soft. Also, there is some color fringing and some misaligning in a little bit. That worked very well with the candles in Adam's room. That also we saw a picture of this. There was a very nice look, for example. Then we had the future stuff, even more very gritty. We treated it more like a bleach bypass look in a way. And so we went through the different seasons. Because of the experience of the grading, I now worked with, I think it was 4 or 5 different LUTs in the camera and on my monitor. I'm lighting off the monitor very much. So I'm using a fine brush more or less and look at the monitor where I want to add or change things. And I'm operating myself. I'm always operating a camera, have an operator for the B camera, and rely also very heavy on my gaffer, who is my eye then back on the monitor while we're shooting. And so I can look over from the camera to him, just a quick look and say, is this in the corner maybe a little bit too dark, or should we lift this, or what are you saying? So that's a very important part for my working style. So I had these 4 looks, and now coming to season 3, again, I knew there's more coming, and we ended up at the end with 10 different looks, actually. What becomes then, also a challenge of to keep with them and to keep up with them and make sure that everybody's provided. Again, second unit is, and you have the right LUT when you have something like the future look, what is again a little bit like a very, very strong, very high contrast look, where you light very soft and just fill everything in. If you want to change something with this look, suddenly you have a picture that doesn't look good, but it does look good when you have this LUT on. You know what I mean? So you have to be careful in the way you work with it. Also, when you use colors are maybe sucked away in a certain LUT, but they are actually there. And if you use a different LUT or you change something later on in the grading, suddenly a strong red that you have somewhere, but is very muted with the LUT, that you're looking through, that can be a challenge or something that you have to work on, or something that you always have to have an eye on. So that was certainly the most demanding part in the third season, to make sure that you're always on the right spot where you are. Thankfully, I have a fantastic crew. I have a idea T, who is just a knowledge of digital, and I am not. He's a very technical person. I am not. And he had my back covered also on Chatterville. That's why I met him. So he's actually South African, but he could work with us because he has an European passport as well. So I'm bringing him on the show, and he covered my back. Also, a big shout out to the rest of the crew, who is just really fantastic, hardworking, very, very talented, and just like the nicest and loveliest people. It was fantastic to work with them, all of them. I was in my career, throughout my career, I was very, very lucky. The Siege of Chatterville, I've been working with people I've never had. I was just put into the spot there, and I've had suggestions, and I ended up with the right people, great people, great ACs, Richard, the DIT that I mentioned, Toby, Smoots was the gaffer. So I've been really fortunate. This is the best part of the whole thing, to surround yourself with just a fantastic crew. And I wouldn't be, they have my back covered. If I lose it, they're always there and catch me. So that's perfect. Really, I'm very grateful.
It's amazing work. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're hoping to do next. What's the next challenge?
Well, we are in the talks of another project, again with Bo and Jantje, also for Netflix. So it was out already on I think a Hollywood Reporter or so, I'm not sure. There was an article about it. So it's about a feature, or now it's a series actually, again, called 1899. It's about on an immigration ship on the way to the States with different nationalities from all over Europe who hoping to find a better life, or something better overseas. And well, some things might happen on the boats within the different nationalities and all things. So could be maybe like a contemporary story, with us here in Europe. How can we live together and to work together and not against one another in a way. So we'll see. This is all that I want to say at the moment, but it's certainly, it's there might be technically interesting stuff, and it's a nice or interesting story. So I'm looking forward to this.
Very cool. There's a lot of questions coming in about some advice. We've got some young filmmakers that join us, and we really appreciate them making time to do so. And so they're asking, do you have any advice you would share with them as they get started in their careers and get into the industry?
Well, one thing I have to say is that it's a tough question, because you feel in a way responsible. Whatever you give advice, you give them, they follow you, and if it's not working out, then they're coming back to you. No, but I think you have to be persistent, and you have to be prepared to wait it out and to constantly work your best and prepare yourself that when the moment is coming, that you are prepared. Actually, surround yourself with the art that you actually want to produce yourself, and what you want to, what you like and don't like. Find this out. I guess travel if you can, and if it's possible, again, to see the world and learn more about yourself, and of course learn your craft. But I think at a certain point, I think it's all the greatest cinematographers that everybody looks up to. They have some experience, and they have a certain personality, and this is the most important, I think, for a director, to bring a crew together, or to bring the collaborators together, like a set designer, costume designer, musicians, a cinematographer, who are the best people for creating or to helping create the feature film, the story in the way that he or she wants it to be. And you can only do it if you have, if you bring something to the story, what is coming from yourself, I think, in a way. I guess you can work around this and just do it commercially because it's a job. But I think if you really put all your inner self into a story, what I think you should as an artist, then you need to have something that you feed off, and where you, the experience that you had and the things that you saw and your background and everything, you bring everything on the table, and that's the more important. In the beginning, I think, is shoot whatever you can just to learn your craft, and then later on be selective and just shoot the things and film the things that you really believe in, because otherwise you just spend a lot of time on things that, if you don't believe in it, then that can sometimes be hard. So I hope this is a good advice. I'm not sure.
No, it's wonderful.
What was it? Drink water, use sunscreen, and travel.
Exactly. Yeah. Very good. Well, it's been an hour already. It's flown by.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really great. Thank you so much for taking the time and doing all the prep and sharing all those images with us. It was awesome.
I thank you. It was really great. Yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Yeah.
And I'm hoping we can meet in person sometime soon.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Well, Nick, take care. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
We talk soon. Thanks, guys.
And thank you to everybody that joined us today. Please join us next week. We're going to be sitting down with Ed Lockman and talking about his work. And all of our episodes are going to be available on our website at airyrental.com, where you can also check out all of our unique and exciting products. And you can follow us on youtube.com/Airy Rental Group. Okay, until next time, everybody. Cheers.